Cypress Financial Group presents the Retirement Roundtable Podcast with John Scallan. Get more at cypressfinancial.net. Now, let's get to the show.
Hey, real quick, before we get into it, John, hope you're having a great weekend, but I think it's worth noting that, you do serve the entire Gulf Coast with multiple locations of Cypress Financial. Where can we find you?
Well, Mark, the easiest way to find us is at our main office in the heart of Metairie, 3421 North Causeway Boulevard. We started everything here, and, because, of the growth and the relationships that we've had, we've opened a second office that is in Mandeville on Florida Street. Mark, and it's worth noting, we do Zoom calls, team calls. People reach out to us, on our website. We visit clients at their homes and their businesses. At the end of the day, we want to serve our clients in a way that's really efficient and works the best for them and their particular situation.
CypressFinancial.net. John's not afraid to drive. Actually, what he does, and I hate to put his business out there, he'll get into a car and pop on a podcast, and the podcast is actually this show, the Retirement Roundtable. So he's listening to himself as he's going to visit clients all over.
And Mark, listen, for me to say it and then listen to me say it, it's almost like I need therapy.
All the voices in your
after listening to myself talk, yes.
John, I saw something from the CDC. It caught my attention. The latest numbers show that U.S. life expectancy just rose to 79 years, the highest in American history. For women, it's at 81 and a half years, 76 and a half for men. Living longer is obviously great news, John, until you realize your retirement income now has to last 30 years instead of 20. So let's talk about some of the common mistakes you see when people underestimate how long their retirement could be.
Mark, you bring up a great point, and I wonder how many people listening right now are planning their retirement based on what they think is average and not what is actually possible. And Mark, that could be a mistake. People just planning for averages. I mean, here's what I mean. Let's say that there's a couple from Covington. They're both 65, just retired. They're looking at that average life expectancy of just north of 79 years old, and they think, okay, so we need to plan for maybe 15 years. Mark, here's the thing. If you're already 65 and you're healthy, your life expectancy is way higher than the national average. We're talking potentially into your late 80s, even your early 90s that you could live to.
And that can be dangerous, John, when these averages are misleading like that.
Yeah, Mark, great point. I would agree with that. I mean, because those averages include people who did not make it to 65. They're rolling in, people who may have passed away earlier than the norm. But if you're sitting here already at retirement age and you're reasonably healthy, you've already beaten a lot of those odds. And, the wealthier and healthier you are, the longer that you're likely to live. So what happens? This couple plans for 15 years, but maybe they live 25 or 30. And somewhere around year 18 or 20 into retirement, their income source, their assets, they start running low on money. And Mark, quite frankly, that is a very scary place to be.
So as we're talking about some of the mistakes we have because we are living longer, you mentioned that the averages of how long you think we're going to live or how long the new reports are saying we're going to live, that's misleading. So what's another mistake?
Mark, I would say the second thing is what I call planning too conservatively when you're planning too short. I mean, let me explain this a little bit more. If you think you only need your money to last 15 years, you might put all of your assets in what I would call conservative solutions. Maybe it's guaranteed income products, maybe it's bonds or CDs. And, that's not a bad strategy, based on market conditions. And if you're only planning for a short time frame, but if you actually live 30 years, I mean, Mark, inflation is going to eat you alive. I mean, let me drill down on that a bit more. I mean, think about it. If inflation averages just 3% per year, the cost of everything, doubles in 24 years. So you've got a couple planning for a $5,000 per month budget today. In 25 years, you're going to need $10,000 a month just to maintain the same lifestyle. If all of your money is in conservative solutions that really are not keeping pace with inflation, you are losing critical purchasing power every single year.
And John, correct me if I'm wrong, that's where balance comes into play?
Yeah, 100%. You need what I call strategic money and growth money working together. Some of your money positioned conservatively, creating guaranteed income streams to supplement your pension or your Social Security that you can count on regardless of where your money is or what's happening in the market. But some of your money needs to stay invested for growth. This money needs to fight inflation to make sure your purchasing power does not erode over this 30-year period. And here's the beautiful thing. When you know you've got your baseline needs covered with guaranteed income sources, you can let that growth money actually work for you without having to touch it when the markets are down. That's how you build a plan that can really go the distance.
This weekend here, the Retirement Roundtable, good conversation about building income to last as long as you do. John, it's all about planning for possibility, not just the probability.
Yeah, well said, my friend. Planning too short is way worse than planning too long. Because think about it. If you plan for 30 years and you only make 20 years, well, the kids are not going to complain about leaving a little bit extra to them. But if you plan for 15 years and you live for 30 years in retirement, that's a problem that we really can't fix at age 85. Mark, you know what I've seen time and time again? People come in and they say, well, my dad passed away at 72, so I don't know, I might not live much longer than that. And, I say, well, maybe, but what if that's not correct? What if medical technology or everything that's happening in medicine, extends your life another decade? What if you're like my mom who made it to 88? We can't plan on hope. We have to plan on what we can calculate in your financial portfolio.
Do you mind if I trademark that, John, and put it on a T-shirt? We can't plan on hope. We have to plan for what we can calculate.
Mark, as long as I get a royalty check hitting my mailbox, you talk about, those folks lucky enough to have mailbox
That's
money.
right.
Listen, I'm all in.
Hey, listen.
I'm all in, my friend.
Hey, he walks it like he talks it every weekend here. So, John, somebody's listening and they're thinking about, how are they going to have that income? They want to make sure that they're taken care of, their spouse is taken care of, the kids are taken care of. They like what you have to say. John, what's the next move? What should they do?
Gosh, pick up the phone. We would love to hear from you. We would love to meet you and talk about this next incredible chapter of your life that you're either starting or that you're already in. Let's review your plan together. Questions that we're going to go through. How long is your income designed to last? We'll talk about what happens if you live 5 or 10 years longer than you expected. We'll talk about, are you positioned for inflation? Do you have the right balance between guaranteed income and growth? Remember, initial meetings are always complimentary, no fee, no obligation. Or when you call, you can always ask about a retirement ready report. Answer a few quick questions about your situation, 10 to 15 minutes, and within 24 hours, we will give you a personalized report showing you exactly where you stand. No cost, no obligation, just real clarity on whether your plan can really go the distance in retirement.
And John, as we're talking this weekend about couples and retirement, we're going to stay on the theme of partnerships for just a minute, because retirement planning isn't just an individual thing. It is a couples thing as well. And one thing that can really test that partnership is when one person is ready to retire, but the other one isn't quite there yet. We see this more and more. Couples where there's an age gap or different career paths or just different feelings about when to call it quits. So, John, what happens when health issues, Social Security, when to draw it, or just somebody's ready and somebody's not? When all this complicates those retirement timelines, how do these couples coordinate different retirement dates without it turning into an emotional, uncomfortable battle?
Mark, this comes up more than you would think. I mean, it can get emotional fast if you're not careful. So let me paint a picture. A lot of this is going through my head right now. I mean, imagine, let's say it's a couple from Tangipahoa Parish. He's 64, she's 62. He's ready to retire. I mean, he's been at the same company for 35 years. He's tired. He's ready to go. But she, on the other hand, loves her job. She's in healthcare. She feels like she's really making a difference. She gets a lot of satisfaction about the contribution she's making to people's lives. And she's thinking, she wants to work until at least 67 to maximize her Social Security. Now, he's a little bit frustrated because he's thinking, we've been planning for this. I want us to retire together, travel, enjoy life. And she's thinking, I'm not quite ready to give up something that I love, something that just gives me so much purpose, just because you may be a little burned out. So as you can see, this can create what I call maybe a little bit of tension as they're making this decision.
Yeah, choppy waters on the Gulf sounds like what it is right there. So what do? How do you help them navigate all this?
I mean, the bottom line is this, mismatched timelines. This happens a lot, and they're totally okay. But if you've got a plan for multiple phases, I mean, listen, there's phase one when one person's retired and one's still working. There's phase two when you're both retired. And you need a financial strategy that actually works for both. So here's what we do. For this couple in Hammond, let's say he does retire at 64. We need to figure out, can they maintain their lifestyle on her income plus his Social Security? Or do they need to start pulling from savings? What happens to their health care? Does he go on Medicare at 65 while she stays on her employer plan? Then we plan for phase two. When she retires 3 years later, now we've got 2 Social Security checks coming in, maybe her pension if she's got one. How does the income picture change? Do we need to adjust the withdrawal strategy? These are the common things that we talk about in this situation.
And John, I hate to interrupt, but it's something that we've said many times here on this show. We build out like a retirement roadmap. That's what these phases are. And it's the importance of having that roadmap for all these phases of life.
Again, my friend, well said. I mean, here's what's interesting. Sometimes when we run the numbers, we find out they can both retire earlier than they thought. Or sometimes we find out it actually makes sense for one person to keep working a little bit longer. Not because they have to emotionally, but because the math works out. Maybe they're paying down a mortgage. Maybe they've got some commitments to the grandkids. Maybe she's got great health insurance through her job, and keeping that coverage for a few more years saves them, $12,000, $15,000, $17,000 a year in medical premium. The point is simply this. We take the emotion out of it by looking at the numbers. Many times the numbers never lie. It's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about what we can calculate and what works for your specific situation.
I guess that's a fitting phrase right there when we talk about couples in retirement. And one of your goals, your mission statements, is to take the emotions, because with our spouse, with our money, we get very emotional. John, it's all about taking the emotion out with the math.
Let me tell you, this is where having a written financial plan really prevents what I call tension at this stage of the marriage, because let's not argue about feelings. You're looking at these projections together. Here's what it looks like if you both retire at 65. Here's what it looks like if you keep working until 67. And then we talk about the trade-off. Now, You can make a decision together based on facts, not fear or not guilt.
So, John, this weekend, people are listening to the Retirement Roundtable, and there's a couple listening right now. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, they're not on the same page about when to retire. What do you suggest that they do?
We would be so thrilled to hear from you. Call us, 504-732-1001. You can always book an appointment or a conference or a Zoom call at cypressfinancial.net. Listen, let's get together and let's map this out as a team. You know, I can't say that I have 4 decades of experience in many things, but I can tell you, working with clients, doing the math, running the numbers, bringing in all the factors, Social Security, debt load, commitments that you'd like to, complete. We'll look at different scenarios, show you what each phase looks like financially, and help you make a decision that works for both of you. Initial meetings are complimentary, no fee, no obligation, because Mark, retirement is supposed to bring you closer together, not to create conflict. Let's make sure the financial side of this, the numbers, they support your hopes, your dreams, and your marriage.
Talk about taking the emotions and the tension out of relationships and out of a marriage. And one way to eliminate some of that is to make sure that you have income that comes in throughout your retirement. And I want to talk a little bit about Social Security here because you mentioned it a couple of minutes ago. And I came across a story that caught my attention. A woman wrote into a financial advice column saying that waiting until 70 to take her Social Security was the worst decision of her life. Now, she's getting $5,000 a month because she waited until 70. But she would have gotten about half that if she filed at the age of 62. And she said, I'm quoting here, "Yes, my check is larger now, but at what cost? The money I'm finally receiving can't buy back the health and energy I had in my 60s. I spent years telling myself I was being responsible by waiting, but life isn't lived in monthly installments." It's kind of heavy there, John, but she has a point. What can we learn?
I've thought about this a lot over the years. And Mark, here's the thing. The conventional wisdom for the last decade has been delay, delay, delay. Wait until 70, maximize that benefit, get an extra 24% or even 32% by waiting. I mean, on paper, it looks great, but I think this woman's story highlights something my industry doesn't talk about enough, and that's what I would call opportunity cost, Mark.
Okay. I'm glad you said that because I feel like I don't know what opportunity cost is. So what exactly is that? What do you mean?
Well, let's think about her situation. Let's say she was pulling, $2,500 a month at 62 instead of $5,000 a month she now gets at 70. That's 8 years of monthly income. She gave up about $240,000 total. Now, yes, her benefit is higher now, but she's got to live long enough to make up for that almost $250,000 gap. And more importantly, Mark, what did she miss during those 8 years? Maybe she wanted to travel, but didn't because she was worried about money. Maybe she wanted to help her grandchildren, but held back. Maybe she wanted to feel financially secure in her 60s, but instead, maybe she felt a little stretched out financially. That's the part you can't get back, Mark. You can't buy back your health. You can't buy back your energy. You can't buy back time with the people you love.
So sometimes it's not always about the numbers. It's not always about the math, John.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying waiting is always wrong. For some people, waiting absolutely makes sense. Maybe you're still working and you don't need the money. Maybe you've got longevity in your family and you're really still vibrant and healthy. Maybe your spouse has a lower benefit and you're trying to maximize the survivor benefit for them. Here's what I've learned. There's no one size fits all answer. Your situation, your life, your dreams, that's the only one that matters. I want to give you a different example. Imagine you've got a couple in Terrebonne Parish. He's 62, just got laid off, let's say unexpectedly. His company offered him a buyout. He's got some savings, but not a lot. He could wait until 67 for Social Security, but that means pulling about $30,000 a year from his IRA to make up that gap. Or he could take Social Security at 62, keep more of that IRA invested and growing. We run the numbers, and guess what? Taking it at 62 actually makes more sense for him. He's not depleting his savings as fast. His wife isn't totally stressed out about the loss of the income, and they can actually enjoy these years instead of white knuckling it until age 67.
I feel like, John, as you're describing this couple, that everybody's plan is different. No two portfolios are the same. It really is situational.
I mean, Mark, these are numbers that we can calculate. I always tell my clients, listen, I'm here to provide multiple solutions. You're the captain of this ship. This is your money. We never lose sight of that. My job is to give you options, to show you different strategies that can really work. We can model it out. Here's what your lifetime income looks like if you take it at 62. Here's what it looks like at 67. Here's age 70. And then we factor in other income sources. We factor in your tax situation, your health, your goals, and then you and your spouse make the decision that's right for you, not based on some generic rule, but based on your actual life.
For a lot of adults, John, Social Security is going to be a piece of the puzzle for income to and through retirement. There are a lot of changes around Social Security, a lot of conversations about Social Security. And if somebody's trying to figure out when's the best time to take it, should I delay? Should I file a little bit earlier than planned? What's the best course of action?
You know, Mark, I would just want to throw this in. We have some incredible software that, if we can put in your real numbers, bring in your Social Security statement, bring in your spouse's statement, we can literally give you 30 or 40 different claiming strategies, claiming scenarios. What happens if I pull now, later? When do I pull? When does my wife pull? Again, we can give you some real numbers that are going to be incredibly accurate and help you make this decision. Give us a call, 504-732-1001. We will always treat you with courtesy, kindness, and respect. The initial meetings are always going to be complimentary. Whether you become one of our clients or not, I promise you that you will walk away from these interactions with myself and our team with something that you can actually use. Let's model out your specific situation together. What are your income sources? What's your health picture? What are you trying to accomplish in those early retirement years? What is the opportunity cost of waiting versus the benefit of filing sooner? Mark, I will always say this. The right answer for you is the only answer that matters. And I challenge you, let's figure this out. Let's figure out what that number is and help you on this journey to and through the next 30 years.
There's another T-shirt I got to trademark, John. The right answer for you is the only answer that matters. John Scallan, you had your Wheaties this morning because you are bringing it strong. Great information.
The royalty checks are just already flowing in, Mark. I might be able to retire right now.
It's been a good run, buddy. We're not done yet. 504-732-1001. Great conversations this weekend already about living longer than originally anticipated. What about couples in retirement and trying to relieve some of that financial tension? Well, speaking of income, everybody's worried about their income in retirement, especially Social Security. There's nothing wrong with asking John the question, John, where am I? I'm overwhelmed with all these conversations about annuities, about income, about my tax strategy, about Social Security. Ask those questions. That initial consultation, no cost, no obligation, and John can meet you at one of the multiple locations of Cypress Financial or up and down the Gulf Coast. Zoom and team consultations always available as well. 504-732-1001 or cypressfinancial.net.
advisory services offered through Cypress Financial Group, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Cypress Financial Group, John Scallan, Louisiana Insurance License Number 1064997. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Cypress Financial Group. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties.